All right, joining us now on the line with more on this, we have political analyst Levy Ndou. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ndou. We do appreciate your time.
Good morning to you, Flo. Good morning to the viewers.
Well, let me start here, right? We have a 70-year-old who's just been put into this position as the new premier of the Northwest. The ANC doesn't seem serious about young leadership, is it? Is there a lack of good young leaders within the organization? And someone who's been in leadership in the Northwest, like Professor Job Mokgoro, should have groomed these young leaders that should have been actually in this position now.
Indeed, I love to agree. The age, there is an age factor with Professor Mokgoro. But I think as well, you know, the ANC Youth League is also part of is an active participant in the factional battles within the ANC. And it would not have been easy to get a young person who is not actively participating in the factions within the ANC. And that is why, you know, you had to get someone who is not within the factions, who must actually try his best to unite the party. Remember, the challenges that are facing the Northwest Province are the manifestation of the factions within the ruling party. And in that regard, the ordinary citizens on the ground are actually suffering. And the collapse of governance in the Northwest was informed by factional battles. And I think that is why the strategy has been to bring someone who will focus on ensuring that there is good governance and ensure that government administration is running properly in the interest of the ordinary citizens.
All right. Well, I want us to later on talk about his eligibility, of course, to be in this position. I mean, he does seem to have a good track record. But you mentioned the issue of factions, and I want to stay on that in particular. We know that Supra Mahumapelo has thrown his full weight and support behind Professor Job Mokgoro. In 2014, in fact, he was reappointed the DG of provincial government. And we know that even in the 90s, he was DG of the Northwest government. We've heard Supra Mahumapelo calling him a highly respected intellectual. Was this part of the plan then, not to upset the former premier, Supra Mahumapelo, too much by putting in somebody who might have been a detractor of his? And that goes back then to the issue of factions, because then it means that you are still playing to those factions ultimately in the Northwest.
You cannot, if you want to replace the premier that you have removed, you cannot go outside your own organization, unfortunately. But also you need to try your best to get someone who, in the context of the Northwest, would not be ambitious and want to occupy a position beyond 2019 elections. And that's why we're looking at the age factor of Professor Mokgoro. There is no way that Professor Mokgoro will say beyond 2019, I want to continue as the premier. And I think he's actually put there in order to manage, in particular, the governance issues. And what Supra Mahumapelo and his PEC and regions is supposed to do is to focus on building the structures of the ANC and ensure that they are united. But we've got an unfortunate situation as well, because you'll recall that when Supra Mahumapelo was removed as the premier, he made an announcement that he's going on early retirement. So one is not very sure if it's early retirement from government or from actively participating in the ANC. But we'll still wait for clarity from Supra Mahumapelo himself. But I think this is a huge challenge to the Northwest members of the ANC, that governance has collapsed. The people on the ground are suffering because of petty or mismanagement of factions within the ANC.
In your view, what role do you think Mapilo will now have in the administration? We know that he's still, of course, still involved in the Northwest government, but do you think that he will indeed take a prominent role that perhaps we won't be aware of behind the scenes?
If, for me, I would expect Mapilo to be selfless and actually provide the new premier with the correct state of affairs of the province, so that the new premier would actually know exactly where to start, and working very closely with the national government, because the province is under administration, and of course, Professor Mokgoro has to ensure, working together with the officials of the national government, ensure that the people on the ground actually get the basic services that they actually deserve. Supra and his team must actually focus on building the structures of the ANC and say no to factionalism and focus on ensuring that they've got a strong and united ANC in the Northwest Province.
Professor Ndou, let me go back to where I probably should have started. Well, the party has described Professor Job Mokgoro as a tried and tested administrator. Let's talk about his history, which made him the right man for the job, according to the ANC.
Well, Professor Mokgoro has a very good track record in administration and governance. Remember, he has been very much involved in the School of Governance, and that's mostly all government officials go through that program in the School of Government in different state departments, and they're actually getting properly equipped, and he has been very much central in doing so. He has now moved to the Northwest Province as the Director General in an effort to ensure that the same efforts are actually being entrenched in the Northwest Province. And in terms of amalgamating the former Bantu stance to the current democratic dispensation, he was also very, very central in ensuring that there is a smooth transition from the apartheid system in the Northwest Province to the democratic system, amalgamating the former Boputatswana civil servants to the democratic government. And he has actually done that very, 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 very well. And I think, indeed, if he does not focus on other things and focus on governance and administration in the Northwest, just give him a few months, everything is going to be back on track in that province, and the ordinary citizens are actually going to enjoy. Another advantage for him is that he has the support of the alliance partners. He has the support of the Revolutionary Council. And I hope the ordinary citizens on the ground are also supporting him, and Northwest Province could actually look much better.
All right. Well, let's hope that you're right about that. Thank you very much for giving us your time, Mr. Levy Ndou, as political analyst, speaking to us, of course, about the appointment of Professor Job Mokgoro as the new premier of the Northwest, taking from Mapilo, of course. Let's move